Today we wanted to make a bit of a different video, one that explores both an original Western film and its remake. There are dozens of classic stories that have been revamped and retold for modern audiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the remake is better or improved. So in today's video, we're going to look at both versions of the iconic Western classic, True Grit, being the classic 1969 film starring the legendary John Wayne, versus the critically acclaimed 2010 remake from the visionary Coen Brothers. Both films tell the powerful story of Mattie Ross, a determined young girl who hires a gruff, one-eyed U.S. Marshal to track down her father's killer. But while the core narrative remains the same, the interpretations, performances, and overall tone of these two cinematic journeys couldn't be more different. Which version of Rooster Cogburn was portrayed the best? And what do the differences in storytelling methods tell us about the evolution of the Western genre itself? Well, strap yourselves in and join us as we explore and compare the strengths and weaknesses of both films, dissecting their portrayals of justice, revenge, and the untamed frontier. But first, before we dive into each film, it's crucial that we take a quick look at the source material in which both of these cinematic journeys are based on. The story of True Grit finds its shared foundation in Charles Portis's 1968 novel. Portis's writing is distinctive, a blend of dry wit, precise language, and a narrative voice that is both formal and deeply idiosyncratic. The story is told from the perspective of Mattie Ross, looking back on her youthful adventure with a clear, unsentimental eye. Her intelligence, pragmatism, and unwavering resolve are central to the novel's charm and power. Portis's novel is not a typical Western. It eschews grand, sweeping romanticism for a more grounded, almost bureaucratic approach to frontier life. The characters, particularly Rooster Cogburn, are complex and flawed, far from the idealized heroes often found in the genre. This unique tone and characterization are what both film adaptations grappled with, and their success can often be measured by how well they captured Portis's singular vision. From the novel, we move to the first cinematic interpretation. Directed by Henry Hathaway, the 1969 adaptation of True Grit is perhaps best known for finally earning John Wayne his long-awaited Academy Award for Best Actor. By this point in his career, Wayne was an icon, synonymous with the Western genre. His portrayal of Rooster Cogburn was seen by many as a culmination of his career, a role that allowed him to embody a more grizzled, less heroic version of his classic persona. Wayne's Cogburn is a larger-than-life figure, a boisterous, often comical drunkard whose gruff exterior hides a surprising, if inconsistent, moral compass. His performance leans into the theatricality of the character, making Cogburn a memorable, if somewhat sanitized, version of Portis's anti-hero. Wayne's natural charisma shines through, and his interactions with Mattie, played by Kim Darby, have a paternal warmth that softens Cogburn's rough edges. Kim Darby's Mattie is earnest and determined, but perhaps lacks some of the steely, almost precocious intelligence that defines the character in the novel. Her youthfulness is emphasized, making her journey feel more like a coming-of-age adventure. While she holds her own against Wayne's imposing presence, the dynamic often feels more like a seasoned veteran guiding a novice. Glenn Campbell's portrayal of the Texas Ranger LaBeouf is often cited as one of the weaker points of the 1969 film. While charming, his performance struggles to convey the character's blend of vanity, cowardice, and occasional competence. His presence often feels more like a musical interlude than an integral part of the narrative. Hathaway's True Grit is a more traditional, almost family-friendly Western. It has a brighter, more adventurous tone with a rousing Elmer Bernstein score that emphasizes heroism and adventure. The violence, while present, is less visceral, and the darker elements of the story are often downplayed. It's a film that celebrates the spirit of the West, even as it acknowledges its harsh realities. Strengths of the 1969 film include John Wayne's iconic performance, the film's accessibility, and its classic Western feel. It's a comforting, enjoyable watch that delivers on the promise of a classic Western adventure. But now that we've explored the core elements of the original version of True Grit, let's take a look at the Coen Brothers' 2010 remake. 41 years later, Joel and Ethan Coen brought their unique directorial sensibilities to True Grit, creating an adaptation that is often lauded for its fidelity to Portis's novel. The Coen Brothers version is darker, more austere, and unflinchingly portrays the harshness of the frontier. Jeff Bridges' Cogburn is a revelation, a grumbling, often incoherent, and genuinely dangerous man whose alcoholism and moral ambiguity are front and center. Bridges embodies the character's slovenliness and unpredictable nature, making him a far more complex and unsettling figure than Wayne's portrayal. His Cogburn is less a hero and more a force of nature, driven by his own peculiar code. Hailee Steinfeld's Mattie is the true revelation of the 2010 film. Her performance captures the novel's Mattie perfectly, a sharp-witted, articulate, and incredibly resilient young woman who is wise beyond her years. Steinfeld's Mattie is not just determined, she is formidable, often outmaneuvering the adults around her with her legalistic arguments and unwavering resolve. She is the emotional and intellectual anchor of the film. Matt Damon's LaBeouf is a nuanced portrayal, capturing the character's vanity, his attempts at dignity, and his underlying vulnerability. Damon plays LaBeouf as a man trying to maintain a facade of competence in a world that constantly challenges it. His interactions with Mattie and Cogburn are filled with a dry humor and a palpable sense of exasperation. The Coen Brothers' True Grit is a stark, almost minimalist Western. The cinematography is breathtaking but unforgiving, emphasizing the vast, indifferent landscape. The dialogue is delivered with a deliberate, almost formal cadence, mirroring Portis's prose. The violence is sudden, brutal, and impactful, reflecting the harsh realities of the time. The film is less about heroism and more about survival, consequence, and the often arbitrary nature of justice. Strengths of the 2010 film include its remarkable fidelity to the novel's tone and dialogue, the outstanding performances from the entire cast, especially Hailee Steinfeld, and its unflinching portrayal of the West. It's a visually stunning and intellectually engaging film. Weaknesses include that some might find its deliberate pacing and darker tone less traditionally entertaining than the 1969 version. The Coens' signature quirks, while subtle, might not appeal to all viewers. Now, let's delve into the key differences and comparisons between these two cinematic interpretations. First off, let's take a look at the character portrayals. The most significant difference lies in the portrayal of Cogburn. Wayne's version is the lovable rogue, a grizzled hero, whereas Bridges is more of an authentic, grittier, and less romanticized interpretation of a man hardened by the frontier. Wayne's Cogburn is a character you root for. Bridges is a character you observe with a mix of fascination and apprehension. When observing Mattie Ross, Kim Darby's Mattie is a sympathetic, determined teenager, whereas Hailee Steinfeld's Mattie is a force of nature, a precocious and unyielding young woman who drives the narrative with her intellect and resolve. I'd say that Steinfeld's performance is arguably closer to Portis's original vision. Now let's take a look at the character of LaBeouf. Glenn Campbell's LaBeouf is largely forgettable, whereas Matt Damon's LaBeouf is a more fully realized character, providing a crucial third leg to the central trio, and often serving as a comedic foil or a voice of reason. Moving along to the tone and atmosphere, the 1969 film is a much more traditional, optimistic Western, with a sense of adventure and a clear heroic arc. The 2010 film is a bleaker, more realistic portrayal of the West, emphasizing the harshness of life and the moral ambiguities of its characters. The Coens' version feels more like a historical document, while Hathaway's is a triumphant Hollywood Western classic. What about the fidelity to the novel? While both films draw from Portis's novel, the Coen Brothers' version is widely considered to be more faithful to its tone, dialogue, and characterizations. They embrace the novel's dry sense of humor and unsentimental realism, whereas the 1969 film often softened these elements for a more broader audience appeal. As for the visuals and cinematography, the 1969 film features classic Western landscapes, beautifully shot but in a more conventional style. The 2010 film, with Roger Deakins' stunning cinematography, presents a more stark and breathtakingly beautiful, yet often desolate vision of the frontier. The Coens use natural light and muted colors to create a sense of authenticity and grit. One thing I'll add for this part here is that I think the aesthetic and visual language presented in both films, while iconic, also are heavily influenced by the times they were filmed in. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like either style will come down to one's personal preference. For the last comparison, let's quickly look at the ending. Both films follow the novel's ending, but the impact differs. The 1969 film ends with a sense of resolution and Mattie's triumph, whereas with the 2010 film, particularly with the older Mattie's narration, there is a stronger emphasis on the lingering consequences of her journey and the passage of time, leaving a more melancholic and reflective impression. So, after sifting through both versions of this iconic story, which rendition of True Grit truly stands out? Well, the answer, as with many remakes, isn't a simple one, and often comes down to personal preference and what you seek in a Western film. If you're looking for a classic, feel-good Western with an iconic performance from John Wayne, then 1969 True Grit delivers. It's a comforting, adventurous film that embodies the spirit of the golden age of Hollywood Westerns. John Wayne's Oscar-winning turn is undeniably charismatic, and for many, he is Rooster Cogburn. However, if you appreciate a more nuanced, darker, and deeply faithful adaptation of the source material, the Coen Brothers' 2010 True Grit is arguably the superior film. Its unflinching realism, exceptional performances, especially Hailee Steinfeld's revelatory Mattie Ross, and meticulous attention to Portis' unique voice make it a powerful and enduring cinematic achievement. It's a film that challenges the romanticized notions of the West and delves into the true grit required to survive its harsh realities. Ultimately, both films offer valuable, albeit different, perspectives on a timeless story. The 1969 version is a testament to John Wayne's enduring legacy and the appeal of traditional Western storytelling. The 2010 version is a masterclass in adaptation, proving that a beloved story can be reinterpreted with fresh eyes while honoring its original spirit. But how about you? Do you prefer the 1969 original Western film or the more gritty tone of the 2010 remake? Let us know in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the heart of Western cinema. Until next time, this is Slow Dusk, signing off.